Those three chairmen are working together to craft what we believe would be a better approach with regard to health care for the American people than Obamacare.
So there will be one alternative.
There will be an alternative, and you'll get to see it.
And here it comes. Speaker Boehner delivering on that promise made in Bret Baier's interview. Republicans are now unveiling their plan to replace Obamacare. Here are those committee chairmen, Senators Orrin Hatch, Fred Upton, and Richard Burr, keeping the tax credits for the poor in their new plan, the alternative plan, but they will scrap the Obamacare mandates. Quote, every American will be able to access a health plan, but no American is forced to have health insurance that they do not want. Tucker Carlson joins us now, editor of the Daily Caller and co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. So the president has asked for the Republican alternative. Bret Baier asked for the Republican alternative, whether or not it was going to be put out there, and now it is. What do you think of it so far, Tucker?
Well, there are probably going to be a lot of Republican alternatives. Obamacare itself is still disorganized, not fully implemented, and very unpopular. So it's natural that Republicans would come up with a bunch of alternatives. There are a couple potential problems. And by the way, the backdrop of all of this is King versus Burwell, the Supreme Court decision, which will come down this summer most likely and possibly invalidate parts of Obamacare.
Right.
But in the meantime, Republicans are offering up alternatives. They are not apparently going to challenge the Obamacare requirement that insurance companies cover people who are already sick, the pre-existing condition part, because that is popular in the polls. The problem is that makes healthcare much more expensive. When you require insurance companies to cover pre-existing conditions, it's not really insurance anymore, a hedge against the future. It's really a form of charity. So that means you have to find a way to pay for that charity. And the way Obamacare does is by forcing everybody to buy in the mandate, forcing young, healthy people to subsidize older, sicker people. Once you get rid of that, then you have a funding problem.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, so if that's the case, then everybody's going to have to pay more to make up for the fact that some people aren't in the pool, which we know they're not in the pool anyway, a lot of people.
Right. That's right. And the other problem is, of course, all these treatment mandates under Obamacare, and they vary by state, but every state has them. And they are the product of furious lobbying by companies. So basically, companies have gotten the federal government to require the rest of us to buy their services. It's a great deal for them. It's not a great deal for consumers. So if you're a 24-year-old man and you find yourself paying for, infertility treatments, you may be wondering, why am I doing that? You're doing that because a lobbyist convinced a politician through campaign donations to require you to do that. So in order to change that, you have to fight literally an army of lobbyists. I'm here in Washington. Trust me, they're all around me. That's going to be a pretty tough battle.
There were a couple of ideas like cross-border purchasing and tort reform that were very popular a long time ago in a previous presidential election. We don't hear too much about those ideas from the Republican side.
No, you don't, and it's hard to see why. Lobbying is almost always the answer to any question about why things are happening in Washington. But tort reform is just a gimme. It's just a basic. Talk to any physician, and that's like the first or second thing that he'll tell you is that we pay way too much for our liability insurance because lawyers are getting rich and buying big houses and yachts on the basis of it. So yeah, tort reform is obvious. Allowing people to buy across state lines, that's obvious. I think you'll see both of those in Republican plans.
All right. So, I mean, is there any viability for one plan coming forward that people can sort of pinpoint to and say, that's the GOP plan, and the president won't be able to say, they didn't give me an alternative?
Right. No, I think they'll get their act together. Look, they were just put back into power in this last election, I would say largely because of public dissatisfaction with Obamacare. They understand they need to come up with a cogent plan that most of the caucus in the House agrees with and most Republicans can get on board with. And I think they will. And there, again, a bunch of different ones under construction now, and it'll become clear in the next few months, I think.
Clear as mud. We will see. Thank you very much, Tucker.
Thanks, Martha.